I don't see how you memorize words. I'm terrible with
Everybody makes mistakes. Yeah. Even Frank Sinatra lost up the Star Spangled Banner one time.
Yeah.
You've got to think. For instance, if you're singing a sentence here, you've got to think about the next sentence before you finish that one.
Right.
Otherwise, it comes up so fast, you're not ready for it.
Oh,
it's not as easy as it looks. Well, I've always enjoyed my work. When the young people ask me, how come you did this and why didn't you do something else? I said, well, if you have a job that you don't like, you're very foolish to stick to it because you wish it was 5 o'clock so you could go home. You wish your life away.
Right, well, you...
And I never wished for the time to go home. I always enjoyed my work.
Grandma.
Yes, sir.
What kind of work did you do? I mean, I know you did a lot of stuff on the farm, but tell us what kind of jobs you had done up till...
I think I worked just about all of my married life. And when we got married, I was working in the raincoat factory, sewing, and we got a certain amount of money per hour. But it was piecework, and if you hurried like as fast as you can, you could make a little money if you, they call that bonus.
Did you make bonus?
And I made bonus.
Oh.
And then when Leonard was working in the same factory as I was, and he was working in the rubber plant, they called it. He was making rubber and running different parts of the business. You had to have a millwright, and he did that, and he had to cure the raincoat cloth, and that was a heck of a job because it had ammonia in it, and he got real pale, and we thought he was going to die. He got pale as a sheet. And then he got off that job and did something different, and then he run what they call a spreader. And at that time, I was working in the office, and he made, he was always good at whatever he did. And he made bonus, and I was in the office, and the boss would try to cheat him out of a little bonus, and I'd call his attention to it, and instead of having about $4 or something bonus, he'd have really $10 coming. And that way I helped him have a little more bonus, and I was putting the nest egg that he made over. We were saving that because we intended to get married. And I was no good at secretary. Harvey Ninehis was working in the, what kind of room?
Shipping room.
Shipping room. And when I had some figures, I'd run to him and he'd help me with the figures, and then I knew that I was right because I never could add, and I still can't. But that's where the first factory I worked. Then I also worked in a shoe factory, making shoes. That was in Cedar Grove.
Where's Cedar Grove?
Cedar Grove was a little town, stopped just like Gooseberg. And there they had a shoe factory, and I worked there. And I worked there even when Leonard was gone to New York. And I had to ride with somebody else to that shoe factory. They were friends of mine, and I knew them, so I paid them a little something for having that ride every day. And I worked there for quite a while, and then when I went to New York, I thought, well, now my working days were over, but they weren't. So I worked cleaning houses, rooms, apartments, and Gerald was old enough, and he helped me. And we went from one room to another, took out their garbage and cleaned and dusted and made up the beds and everything that goes with housework. Not very nice housework, but I got $9 a week for that. And
what do you think $9 a week at that time is worth today? Do you have any idea?
well, maybe 2 times 9 would be $18 a week.
No, it'd be a
More,
lot
more
more.
than that.
It'd be a lot.
You
What
can-
could $9 buy? Could that buy you?
Very little,
One week's worth of groceries in double days.
Yeah.
but
And then in the meantime, I was singing all over the place. Churches and radio programs, making a little money until Fred Waring came to town, and then I started to make money.
Right. Right. And
I-
how long do you think you did the cleaning?
Oh, a year.
a couple of years, and you know,
Did you get
we
tired
were
of that?
very proud. And when they wanted to give me a tip for working, I said, no, we don't accept tips. But it didn't take me long, and I accepted a tip when I got one.
Okay, I'll take it.
Well, don't laugh. It was a hard job.
Oh yeah, but I can, there's a point where somebody says, here's $5. Oh, you don't accept the tip?
No.
Well, maybe I do.
No, I didn't accept them at first.
Yeah, but
But later on, when I saw everybody else did, and I thought, well,
I better.
I better accept the tip now.
Right.
And all that cleaning, I had the help of Gerald. He'd carry out the garbage and help me make up the beds. So my little $9 that I got for a week, I had to give Gerald a little something for
Right.
what he did for me.
Right.
And I think that's one of the last jobs I had while I was in New York. Don't you think, Len?
Yeah,
How long did you guys live in New York City?
45 years.
45 years.
Boy,
Do you miss it?
I sure do. I
Yeah.
loved New York when I lived there.
Wow.
We could go to,
It was
take the
wonderful.
subway wherever we wanted to go for
40.
5 cents.
Oh, yeah.
That's all it cost us.
It
Now it
cost us-
costs $1 and something
Yeah.
to take that subway.
I think it's $1.50 per token. We used to pay 5 cents for a token.
Mm.
We could,
You could go anywhere on the subway. You
It's
could stay
a,
underground
it's a
all
different
day.
city now, though, than
Oh,
when you
yeah.
were there.
Yeah.
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 And everybody says, "Oh, you wouldn't want to live there now." I suppose not, but I sure would like to go back and visit it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see where we lived, and I'd like to see the George Washington Bridge, which we could see when we go on. And I'd like to even see tar roof. And if you don't know what I mean by that, it was the roof where I hung my washing and had to watch it, and it dried in 5 minutes. It would be dry, but
Because
in
of the
that
heat?
because it was so hot on the tar roof.
Right.
But I had to watch it, and otherwise the sheets would be off the line. Somebody else have them, and I wouldn't have any sheets anymore. So we stayed right up there while our clothes dried, and we lived on the top floor, and it was a walk up, and I'd walk that about 4 or 5 times a day. Never thought anything of it, and climb those stairs. Now I can't even climb one stair.
Oh, yeah, you can.
I don't climb very much anymore.
We were lucky because when they started that rent control, they weren't allowed to raise our rent. We only paid $50 or $55 a month for a 4-room apartment. Of course, it was a walk-up, but it was a good apartment. We had everything we needed. And
But
we were
did it
right
get
just
hot?
a block off from Broadway where all the stores were. We could buy our groceries there. It was a nice place to live until all the Puerto Ricans started to move in. I have nothing against the Puerto Ricans, but you know, when we lived there at first, it was mostly a Jewish neighborhood.
Right.
And you never see a Jewish kid on the street after 10 o'clock at night. And the papa and mama are the boss, believe me. They probably still are, I don't know. But when the Puerto Ricans started to move in, the Jewish people moved out.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd have 4 or 5 different names on one door. They lived with 4 or 5 families in one apartment. And I guess they slept in turns. The rest of them were on the street.
Uh-huh.
We had
And they
two.
couldn't send them back to Puerto Rico because they were American citizens.
Right.
We had 2 Jewish families live right across from us. They were neighborly and
Wonderful people.
nice. And the other old couple, I did it. He got sick, and she got sick. She finally died. And if you want to know about that table, I bought that from him. And before he died, and I said, if there's anything you want to sell, let me know. I said, I'm especially interested in a table. He said, okay, the table is yours. You can have it for $5 when I'm gone. So I paid him $5. And now I want to give it to Gary, but he doesn't even know if he wants it.
I'll take anything. I got an empty house right now.
Yeah, but I'll keep it. I'll keep it because it's one of my prized pieces of furniture.
It's a real
It's
antique.
It's a real antique. It's a butterfly table, and we had it refinished so the water can't touch it. And how much did we pay for that refinishing, Leonard?
$200.
$200 to have it refinished.
Hmm.
And that's where we kept our bankroll, under that table.
You guys were robbed a couple times when you were.
Oh, several times.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
was all in
I
New
got-
York City too.
Got a brand new.
But we were robbed in Pennsylvania too when we lived there. Had brand new Black & Decker grill, and they stole that right out of the house. Where
Oh,
we
in New
lived.
York,
We
yeah.
used that a lot. By the way, did you ever use your clock? that you
Oh
got
yeah.
for
As a matter of fact, the clock is what, 90 years old or something.
Oh, that's the different clock. But I mean, for Christmas one year we bought you a clock because Gary,
Talk radio.
what's her name?
Dawn?
Dawn told us you would like the clock.
Oh yeah. I have
Talk
that.
radio.
Yeah, I've got
We
that.
never heard if you got it or.
She
if you
might
liked
not. Well. Yeah.
You-
I'm not ashamed of it, but she might not have told me that. But I do have I have a clock radio, and I
Yeah.
use it all the time.
Um,
Yeah.
That's what you got for Christmas from us one year.
Yeah.
Because she told us that that's what you'd like.
Okay. Well. Okay.
And also tools. We all
Yeah.
had your name twice already. And I
These
had,
guys have a better memory than I do.
you know,
She remember stuff that she gave to people
I
and wonders if they still have it. I can't remember.
I can't remember anything like that.
I do, I remember everything.
Oh boy,
I remember so many things.
you sure do. We watched a movie one night, and Cocoon.
Yeah,
Oh, you remember that? Yeah, I mean, gee.
I
I
remember.
can bring up
the-
something that I remember and she remembers it. You've got a great memory.
We watched that together and we had lots of fun telling stories to each other. Everybody was going to bed and you laughed your fool head off. We had a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
You never learned anything in Holland language, did you?
Is no a word?
No, that's 9.
No, nine is German.
Nine's German.
Name
Name. No
is
Dutch.
L-E-N. Name.
How do you say yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
I use that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use that a lot. You see, I even use it in my everyday language.
Yeah. No, I didn't learn any Dutch. Not that I don't have.
I think of things sometimes when I wake up in the morning and I lay there with my eyes half shut and I start thinking about little sayings that I learned when I was a kid. There was one, I just told you about that the other day, Elsie, about somebody that you don't...
Some steak doesn't last a week.
No.
You said it in
There's
how?
something about people that make a mistake, the same mistake over and over. And there's a saying in Holland, you say, een ezel stoot zich in gemeen niet tweemaal aan dezelfde steen. That means a donkey very seldom stubs his toe more than once on the same stone. And it's a nice little saying.
Right,
you know?
right.
It's little rhymes like that come to my head.
Wow.
An ezel, that's a donkey. Stoot zich in gemeen. as a
Those
rule.
rhymes come to my head too, but they're a little bit dirty and I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to tell you about them.
Sure, why not?
Good.
Do one. It wouldn't be you if it wasn't.
No.
No, you don't have to.
Als Mary met de kat aan het vliegen wilt, dan spannen we hem af. What else? Dan varen we weer en cheep, 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 dan varen we weer naar huis. I know you don't understand it, and I don't know it myself, but if I had it translated, I could do a
Well,
pretty
it's
job.
half German and half Holland.
That must have been on the border.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've on the border half
With
of the
my
time
father,
of my
if
life,
they'd
not
see,
daily.
if they see the morning, the sky would be red in the morning, he had a saying, he said, morgen rood, schoon water in de sloot. Abendrot, Stanentroten.
Uh-huh.
That meant if it was red in the evening, then the seamen would have to stay on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
But evening, morning red, you'd have schoon water in the sloot. That means clean water in the ditch.
Mm.
Little things like that come to me every now and then. I
I have one.
remember. Yeah?
Red in the morning, sailor's warning. Red at night, sailor's delight.
That's it.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Same kind of thing. Now, from you know, you were in New York, you were with the Pennsylvanians. How was it for you two guys? How did you see each other?
I was home every night.
What about when you were traveling?
Then not. No. Then
Oh.
sometimes I was gone for 3 months. And Elsie took care of herself.
Uh-huh. Was that something that was, did a lot of your friends have similar situations like
All
that?
of them, yeah.
Yeah.
They all have the same problem.
Yeah.
If I was going to stay somewhere like Las Vegas or Reno for 3 weeks, she could come and stay with me.
Right, right.
But one night it was impossible. The bus, in the first place, the bus was full.
Right.
No room for her on the bus. And you couldn't possibly travel with the band every day on a bus.
Now, you were how old when you retired?
I was 77.
77.
Yep.
I can remember seeing you
Mm-hmm.
in a couple concerts. And he always, even at 72 or 73 when he was announced, everybody was so impressed with your voice. They're still impressed with your voice. You can still,
No, I still
he
get
still gets a standing ovation. A couple of years ago, you did a Fred Waring reunion.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just a matter of fact that it's really impressive to see somebody who's 90 plus not just do a meager performance, but a really good performance. I mean that.
Thank you.
You really do a good
Yeah.
job.
Those days are over. We will never have another reunion because Virginia is gone. She sold everything that has anything to do with the Pennsylvanians. She's gone to live in California.
Well,
And
That was very
some
sad
didn't like
about
her, but
Ruth.
I liked her.
You knew Ruth Sibley. Well, she was sort of in charge of the Shawnee Press for a while.
mm-hmm.
And she was, of course, the secretary for Fred Waring for years. And her husband disappeared one day, and they found him a couple days later in the woods. He had
Alzheimer's or
yeah,
something?
something like that, and he just
Right.
died.
And he fell in a crevice
And he died.
in the mountains, and he died there.
Hmm.
And it's only a couple of months ago that they found him and they had a funeral service.
Oh,
And Ruth, I had a picture of her. She looks 10 years older than she did before that happened.
We lost a lot of our friends in Pennsylvania. Dr. Metzger and what's his name? The dry goods man, Heinz.
Heinz, Pickle Heinz.
Pickle Heinz, they call it. And Ray Sachs. So many of my friends in Pennsylvania, they're gone. Ralph Isbell,
I
the
remember.
bass singer, he always sang Old Man River every night.
Yeah, okay, then I've seen him
Yeah.
before. These two used to live here, and why did you move out of here?
We wanted a nicer apartment. We rented a beautiful apartment in Rivercrest Apartments, and Paul and Kathy were with us at that time. They went along with us and looked at 4 or 5 different apartments, and this was the one that Paul liked the best. It's right up the road here, about 7 miles on Highway 1.
And then they moved back.
we had everything there. We had 2 bedrooms, two
Bathroom,
2 bathrooms,
and one flight up.
yeah, and garbage
I had a
disposal,
dishwasher.
and a dishwasher, a garbage disposal. We had everything. But it was a walk up, 1 flight up. Elsie didn't want to live on the main floor, the ground floor, because anybody could walk right in, through the glass door.
But I loved
So
it there.
when she started to get trouble with her legs, we had to have an elevator. That's why we moved back in here,
Mhm.
and it's worth a lot.
Right. Um, I'm going back and forth, I know, but when you lived in New York City, I hear you guys talk about your farm. Did you have a house in Pennsylvania the whole time you lived in New York City?
Yep, we had
Okay.
that farm, 189 acres farm,
Ooh,
and all woods
I wonder what that's
and
worth.
timber, and
Yeah.
that's now owned by one of the guys that is boss at Shawnee.
Oh,
in
really?
Yeah.
Kirkwood?
Kirkwood. No, Kirkwood is the boss. He owns Hessian. What was their name, Leonard? Shabelsky.
You had 189 acres? Is that a lot of land?
Yeah, it certainly is. And we had 9 acres that we had to sell to the government. And,
No, honey, that was
or no, 13 and a half acres.
13 and a half acres,
And-
a beautiful piece of timber. Tulip trees a mile high over the
What'd you have
And
to
tremendous.
do?
hickory trees with hickory nuts on it, and a spring that was running all the time. And we wanted to keep that, so in case we wanted to build a little cottage on there someday, like your dad did. But we'd have the spring and wouldn't
Okay.
have to worry about water.
Sell the big land because Bob was gone, and too much work for us. When Bob was with us, you know, we'd do anything to the house and the barn and everything. But later we just couldn't do it. Well, we didn't lose any money. We made some money selling it,
Uh-huh.
but
Oh, not half enough.
no, I guess not. But that 13 acres of land that we wanted to keep, in fact, we did keep it. The government took it over because they were going to build a dam on Tox Island. Have you heard about that? That Tox Island dam they were going to build
Yeah,
on
and
the
they
Delaware
never-
River?
And they
Well,
never
they
did.
finally decided they couldn't build a dam there because they couldn't hit any rock bottom. It's all shale.
Mhm.
You can't build a dam on shale. It'll wash out from underneath.
Right.
And a guy, a farmer there that lived next to us, he used to drill wells in that area. And he said, you can't build a dam. It's all shale. There's no rock. You have to build on rock.
Right.
So all that land that they bought all the beautiful houses along the river. They bulldozed them down. They couldn't leave them there because the hippies were moving in.
Yeah.
And once they move into a place, you can't get them out.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
all
plant
the
corn.
beautiful- Yeah.
Well, now a hippie, what's a hippie?
The guys who don't want to work.
Really, they just
Yeah.
sort of bummed out.
Survive.
Yeah.
We saw one family moved in one of those houses, and the guy was sitting on his haunches, chopping little holes in the lawn, planting corn in there.
Front of a Victorian.
Oh boy, I tell you, they were awful. Once they move into a place like that, it didn't belong to anybody in there. It belonged to the government, you
Right,
see.
right, right.
And the government couldn't get rid of them.
Oh, gee.
So they bulldozed those houses down.
And that was,
The Wyckoffs and everybody, the dentists, doctors, they all owned those houses along the river, summer houses.
and how many houses do you think were down there?
Oh, maybe 50 or 60.
50 or 60?
It was an ideal place right on the
Yeah,
river.
right on the
Oh.
river.
Then they have boating landings, and they could go boating from there.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Oh,
I just heard about that recently. My friend Molly was telling me about these beautiful homes that were
Yeah.
just, and when they moved out, some people moved in
Yeah.
because it was free rent.
Sure.
Yeah. Wow, that's
Well,
strange.
We tried to buy that 13 and a half acres back from the government, but no dice. We couldn't, they wouldn't sell it to
Government
us.
only buys, they don't sell.
So it's still government property?
Yep. It's government property.
And
It was
it's
supposed to be part of the
vandalized.
recreation. Supposed to be part of the recreation area for Tox Island Dam Park, see?
Right.
There was going to be a lot of land around there, where the river was going to be flooded all the way up to Port Jervis. And where we were, it would have been 30 feet of water.
What was
all
there-
that water, all that land was supposed to be underwater. But
Now, what did they want to build a dam for?
in the first place, the electric company wanted to build a power plant there, which they had that all planned.
Right.
It was a New Jersey electric company. Yeah, and what else they wanted, I don't know. But the government had it all planned for a park for the recreation for the city people. They could come there. But that big lake that they were going to build.
That was going to be a huge lake.
Oh yeah, tremendous. 50 miles long,
Wow.
all the way up to Port Jervis, where it's the end of Pennsylvania.
Do you know you can't see past 50 miles? You know, 50 miles of earth,
On the level,
you can only see 12 miles or something.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was that big.
yeah.
You know we had a tomato juice business,
Yes, I do.
and I come across the labels we used to have, and I'll give you one if you like it.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to get it right away because I've been giving them out.
You know, when Eisenhower was running for president, we campaigned with him, and with Governor Sherman Adams. He was the governor of New Hampshire, and we got to be pretty good friends. And when he found out I made that tomato juice stuff, I sent him a half a gallon of that, and he sent me a suitcase as a present. I got a present from the governor of New Hampshire. Yeah, and we had wonderful times. We play on a place, and Eisenhower was the Pennsylvania 7, on the Fred Waring 7, they called us. 7 of us went with Fred to New Hampshire to campaign. And Ike was going to make a speech, and several others, and we would entertain. And it was advertised in advance that we were going to entertain. So we'd pack them in every night in New Hampshire during the campaign.
That is so neat. Let me show this. Len L. Acres. Look at this.
That was the name of our farm.
If you can't. Let's see if I can see that. All right. Yeah, it's working fine. That is so neat.
We
3% comprised.
we made 5,000 gallons of that every fall.
Who printed that for you? Do you know?
In Shawnee Press? No. Three Maples Press. A little press company there. The Three Maples Press.
That is great. How old are these?
What would you say, Elsie? 40 years?
You mean that label? How old that is?
40 years?
I don't know.
Huh.
Anyway,
Tell me, okay, you're talking about Eisenhower,
Yeah.
the Pennsylvania 7.
yeah. And wherever we went, we packed them in. And Kefauver was running on the Democratic ticket, I guess. And nobody went to see him. It was really funny. We just couldn't lose. And
Brag a little bit.
the last night, the night before election, we put on a big rally in Boston, and we went by train. The president's private coach went up to Boston and we entertained there. And then on the way home again that night, we were in the coach with the president and a lot of senators and governors and all the big shots in the government. And I was asked to sing. And I said, I'll sing if Ike sings with me. Sure, you'll sing. So we sang Wagon Wheels with our arms around each other in front of all those senators and stuff.
Wow.
And they got such a kick out of that. And then finally Ike says, gentlemen, he said, I have to get a few hours sleep before tomorrow. And Mr. Waring, would you let Leonard sing the Lord's Prayer for us? I sang the Lord's Prayer in that car with all these senators and the governors and everything for the president, and then he said good night, and he went to get a couple hours sleep. And he invited me to come to the hotel that next day and watch the returns come in. And I said, no, I don't belong with that crowd. I thanked him. But then Mamie got sick. She had a nervous breakdown, nobody knew it. So she went to live with her mother in Denver, Colorado. And when she got better, she asked Fred if I would come and sing in her church because everybody was going to be there. Ike and the vice president and General Snyder and the governor of Texas and the governor of Colorado. They were all going to be
The one in Milliken, Michigan.
Yeah. And so I sent a list of songs that Mamie could pick from. She picked out 4 songs that I was to sing. So that morning, when I sang there in that church, the choir was not there. I sang 4 solos. The whole presidential party was in the front 2 rows of the church. Elsie in the middle of the presidential party. After the service was over, the minister announced that everybody please remain seated until the presidential party has left. So they let them all go. When I was sitting up there in the quite a lot by myself, of course I couldn't go along. But then the president's aide waited for me, and he took me over to the country club, and we had lunch with the president and a couple of other big shots. Nixon, yeah, on the veranda of the country club.
You met
I was the only guest of the President of the United States. And he said, Leonard, I'd like to show you one of the holders named after me. And he said, Colonel Schultz, get us a cart. So his aide, Colonel Schultz, went to get a cart, and Ike and I got on that golf cart, and we drove all over the golf course, and he showed me that golf hole that was named after him. It was just a little island. That was all there was to it, a green. He said, that's the Ike hole. That's the Ike green. And you should have seen those Secret Service men run. Tried to keep up with us on that golf cart. He was the President of the United States sitting on a golf cart with a total stranger, and nobody knew me.
Right.
How did they know what I was going to do to the President? Wasn't that crazy?
Yeah.
He just laughed about it.
Yeah.
And Mamie,
Mamie
I
said-
was sitting next to Mamie. She says, why don't you get your camera out? I said, they wouldn't let us take a camera. And that's true. They said we shouldn't take any cameras, shouldn't take any pictures of the president. And here Mamie was telling me why I didn't get my camera out and take a picture of Leonard and Ike on the golf course.
Wow.
And after that, of course, we were invited to sing at the White House every year that Ike was president, eight times. And one that I remember most of all was when we entertained the Queen of England. I guess this was in 1950. That was at that time, this Queen Mother was the Queen.
Right.
And we entertained her, and after the program was over, Ike stood next to her and introduced her to several of the Pennsylvanians, including me. She said, Leonard, I want you to meet the Queen. And I held out my hand, and she shook hands with me. And I told her, well, I said, I was a subject to the Queen of Holland until I was 19 years old. Oh, yes, she said, who was that? I said, Wilhelmina. Oh, Wilhelmina and I were good friends that talked to the Queen of England, just by myself. Things like that when, people don't have that kind of experiences.